Hello, everyone. This is High Priestess Tana, and thank you for stopping by and viewing my channel. You can feel free to subscribe if you like, and also continue watching other content. But again, thank you for coming to my channel and viewing my content is much appreciated. And I would like to get started on my review of the movie Michael. First and foremost, it was a phenomenal movie, y'all. It was very, very good. Excellent. Jafar Jackson did a wonderful job, and it felt like I was watching Michael all over again. So it was a beautiful experience. Um, I really felt like Jafar was channeling his uncle Michael's energy throughout the movie because in some instances I thought I was looking at Michael and I was like, wow, this is interesting, but it was pretty cool. And I would like to say, overall, the top acting skills out of the movie, in my humble opinion, would be, of course, Jafar Jackson portraying his uncle Michael Jackson, Coleman Domingo as Joe Jackson, and also Giuliano Valdi as the young version of Michael Jackson. So yeah, that was pretty cool overall. Um, Also, I loved. I forgot his name, but I think I'm gonna look really quickly. Uh, the guy who played Bill Bray, Michael's bodyguard, I'm gonna say slash chauffeur. I think he pronounced his name Kalen Darrell Jones, but he did a great job. And also, the guys who played the brothers, like the other Jackson Five members, did a great job as well. But overall, it was a very great experience, movie experience. But I would like to cut to the chase and start talking about the things that I picked up on while I was actually viewing the movie, not only from, excuse me, from like just from with my bare eyes or my four eyes, however you put it, but also from my third eye, Uh, yeah, Lorenz Tate did great as Barry Gordy as well. He was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. And the guy who played Quincy Jones did pretty good too. Kendrick Sampson. He did pretty good. But overall, the top, like my top people would be Jafar Jackson, Coleman Domingo, Giuliano Valdi, and the guy who played Bill and Quincy Jones. Like overall, were like they did phenomenal jobs. But still, I'm taking my hat off to Jafar, and I would like, and will also like to give him his flowers now. Okay, because I actually believe that he should get more movie roles, because he has such a strong stage presence, and he really is a remarkable dancer slash singer. So I thought that was great. How he just channeled his uncle's energy like that. But for the most part, let's get started with the actual review. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but I always do that. Like I have to get everything out and, you know, pretty much give shout outs to people who they understood the assignment, okay? So they did that. They ate that shit pretty much. But let's see. They did a great job. Um so when I first what I felt when the movie first opened was, Michael was a true artist, excuse me, an artist on top of being a performer. He had great or out of this world showmanship, okay? And it was otherworldly. So what I noticed too was like when the movie first came on, you could hear the chanting in the background. And if I recall correctly, the song that was playing in the background was "Wanna Be Starting Something" from the Thriller album, right? So it was great. And I was like, okay, you could hear it was like a chant, and people calling his name and everything like that. You would hear that throughout the movie where the scenes would kind of fade to Mike or Michael being in the back of the stage or about to approach the stage, and you will hear people going Michael, Michael, and you can hear the instrumentation or the beats playing in the background, and it sounds like a chant. And people viewed Michael as a god, like in some sense, like he was otherworldly or like a demigod type of energy, right? So I saw one snippet from an old interview where this guy was like, "You have God, and then you have Michael Jackson," and I was like, "Whoa, that's serious." But if you look at like all the people that would pass out and stuff like that, and they show that throughout the movie too, people just passing out. We saw this in real life. If you were there, you knew what it was, right? Michael Jackson could have grown men fainting over him, and women too, obviously. But if you got a grown man fainting over you, you got some power, okay? So, yeah. So then we cut to 1966 in Gary, Indiana, and we have Joe Jackson. Who? Let me tell you something. That damn Joe Jackson, Coleman Domingo, who he played the shit out that damn Joe Jackson, didn't he? Because he was an asshole, and he had that creepy, scary kind of look. Because see, with this version of Joe Jackson, we get the color contacts with Coleman Domingo, but we know that Joe Jackson eyes were actually really light colored. They were like a grayish color or something like that. Sometimes they look grayish and green or something. I don't know, but it really showed the monster that dwelled within Joe Jackson, and he looked like a little demon. Like I always thought, I was like, damn, Joe Jackson looked like the devil or something. When I was a child, and if you, like I said, if you was there, you know what it is, right? I used to watch the Jacksons in American Dream. I'm not gonna lie, I went back and watched it again on YouTube because somebody had messed around and uploaded the whole series, honey. And I watched that whole series. I love that series. But anyway, and I just saw like, ooh, it was just the rage in his eyes and his face. Like this Joe Jackson looked creepier or more sinister. On top of being an asshole, God rest his soul. But that man was evil, okay? And you know what? I'm just gonna just cut to the chase, right? We see that these young men, speaking of the Jackson Five, we're talking about Jackie, Jermaine, Tito, Michael, Marlon, all rehearsing and stuff in the beginning. And and eventually Randy came on the scene a little bit later, but at the time you just had those five that I just mentioned. Michael being the front man of the group and a lead vocalist or lead singer, right? And showman. He already had that showmanship and that passion in his music and artistry at a young age. And that was like something that was indescribable. It's like, wow, this young child is singing songs like a grown man who been in love before and stuff. But to go back to the movie, right? We open up in Gary, Indiana in 1966, and we see mean ass Joe Jackson and the Jackson Five brothers performing. Of course, he's pretty much trying to reprimand them and go off on them, telling them that they got to get it right and all this other stuff. And little Michael was looking out the window, looking at other children play. If I recall correctly, I believe it was like in the wintertime. So it was like the holiday season, possibly. And he was just looking out the window and trying to just wanted to be a kid, like, hey, I'm gonna go outside in the snow and have friends and all this other stuff. And it's crazy because it showed that little Michael was robbed of his childhood. Actually, all of them were robbed of their childhood, but Michael, you could tell that his father or their father, Joe Jackson, was trying to mold him into being like the superstar of the group, right? So he wanted him to be like this cute boy next door, I guess you would say, type of persona, like America's sweetheart and all this other stuff, right? But Michael, that day you could tell he was exhausted. He got sick of rehearsing the same song. And if I recall correctly, it was this song that they were rehearsing called Big Boy, which ended up being a local hit for them, if I recall correctly, before Motown actually had reached out, well, not reached out to them, but Suzanne DePaz had reached out to them and stuff. And from my understanding, they lived with Bobby Taylor first, in his apartment, and he put a word in for them to I was about to say Uptown, y'all, to Motown, and that's how they got connected through Suzanne DePaz. But in the movie, it showed them performing at the Apollo, if I recall correctly, in New York. I believe, is that in Harlem, New York? I used to watch that show too, Showtime at the Apollo. I believe that's in Harlem, but anyway, I know it's in New York for sure. And Suzanne DePaz saw them perform, and she was like, okay, they're lit, they got some talent, this is God given talent, and I want them to come, try out at Motown, like to perform in front of Barry Gordy, because they got it. Whatever that it factor was at the time or is, they had it. But also, let me go back about the abuse, y'all. We already know Joe Jackson was beating their asses. Okay, he beat those boys so mercilessly, it was ridiculous. And when I realized, I said, damn, they had performed at some spot, like some juke joint, a club or something like that. And people was throwing money at them on the stage, and Mike came back like, yeah, we did good, Tito, Jermaine, Jackie, Marlon, da 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 da, and all this other stuff. And he was all happy and excited. And Joe looked at him like, we did good. He looking like, no, you better take that back. And he looking like, what, we did good? This is how Michael looking like, oh my God, like, what did I do wrong? And he was like, he took off his belt. Joe took off his belt and beat the brakes off of little Michael. And I said, damn, like, what is? And then little Michael went to the bathroom crying, and here come their mother, Catherine, Miss Catherine Jackson. And happy belated birthday to her too. I believe her birthday, yeah, was May 4th. Her and Jackie Jackson. So happy belated birthday to both of them. And it's crazy. And I sat back and I said, damn, Miss Catherine did not really, to me, fight hard enough to protect those children, but I digress. But she knew that she didn't do enough later on down the road, which I talk about that later. But it showed that little Michael also developed a close bond with Barry Gordy, who was played by Lorenz Tate. Also, Nia Long played Catherine Jackson. Coleman Domingo played Joe Jackson. But well, we saw them, the Jackson Five brothers in the studio, at Motown Records, Barry Gordy was basically, how would I say, guiding Michael or improvising or however you would put it, telling him, uh, like, make sure you be still, don't move around too much while you're singing. But Michael just couldn't stay still, right? He was at a busy body. He was a busybody. And but he could sing his face off, right? At that young, and Barry Gordy was looking like, this boy is special. I don't know what it is about him. I can't describe it, but he sung that song better than Smokey Robinson himself. And that boy got a God given talent you can't take away. I don't care what y'all talking about. But Mike was asking Barry Gordy about certain equipment, like, ooh, what does this do? Oh, this is an equalizer, or this does this, or whatever, on the machines and stuff like that. And yeah, and Michael gave Barry Gordy a hug, and Barry Gordy looked shocked. And yeah, because Joe Jackson was telling, Papa Joe was telling Michael, don't you touch that. Don't do this. Don't do that. He's a busy man. He ain't got time to talk to you and this, that, and the other. And Michael didn't give a damn about that. But when Michael saw, I'm sorry, when Joe saw Michael hug Barry Gordy, that triggered something in him. First of all, sir, you weren't showing your child love and affection. You treated him like a damn slave. Okay? You treated him like he was one of your whores and you were the pimp. Cause that's what I was getting. Like, he was the pimp, Joe was the pimp, and his sons were his bottom bitches. Not to disrespect nobody, but that was the dynamic that I felt. And I was just like, this is horrible. Like, we knew this before, but that shit was horrible. And this version of Joe Jackson just seemed more manipulative and more like he was into gaslighting. He was a fucking narcissist, as we know. And another thing, too, we could tell that Joe Jackson was extremely jealous of his son, Michael. Because if y'all don't know this from beforehand, Joe Jackson tried to make it as a singer with this group called the Falcons back in the day, and tried to do some other gigs with music. It just didn't pan out. It didn't work out for him like that. That clearly wasn't his calling. But speaking of gaslighting and stuff, this is something that happened throughout the movie a lot. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but um Joe kept bringing up to Michael, you were a poor black kid from Gary, Indiana. You got to remember, basically, I pulled you from, the bottom, and I made you into who you are. No, Michael made himself into who he was. You were the stepping stone, pretty much, and you opened the pathway, but that was Michael doing all that work, not you. You weren't doing how would I say, rigorous schedules and dance routines and singing routines, or doing runs and stuff in the studio and with your voice, and exercise your vocal cords using your voice box to make money, or your dancing skills. And speaking of dancing skills, you could see Michael watching clips of James Brown, because he loved James Brown, right? And you can see him watching old clips of James Brown from back in the day, of course, in black and white TV. And he would see James Brown's footwork, and he started mimicking his footwork. And Marlon, he tried to do it a little bit, but he didn't do it as effortless as um Lil Michael. So, and Lil Michael had did the splits and everything, because James Brown, James Brown wasn't no joke. Okay, he another he a tourist. He was a tourist like me. I think his birthday. Oh, happy heavily belated birthday to James Brown too, because I believe his birthday was like May 3rd. I want to say something like that. But yeah, like another great legend. And Yeah, so he took elements from different people. Also, what was his name? Jackie Wilson was also another person whom Michael idolized as well. But moving on along in the story. Now, the Jackson Five, they end up, performing at different venues and stuff like that, and eventually they end up making it big, and they end up being, with Motown. So yeah, and that's another thing too. They would perform locally a lot before they end up being with Motown, getting a big deal or getting their big break slash record deal with Motown. Then I saw something that was very beautiful also in the movie, and it shows that Michael always was a sensitive soul. I believe that Michael Jackson was an empath, a very high ranking or high level operating empath. When he was singing, and they were at like it was like a carnival, something like that. It was an outside place, like an outside concert, but it looked like it was a carnival too, and something like that, or like a state fair type of situation. And I was like, oh wow, that was so cute. That was so beautiful. He was singing to one of the little girls in the crowd. She had a Jackson 5 album and she was in a wheelchair. She was disabled from what I saw. And I thought that was so sweet how he sung to her. And it showed that Michael was always a gentle soul and he didn't judge anybody. But moving along in the story, we saw him keep talking about Neverland. And when I think about, and I don't know if anyone touched base on this, but with Neverland, um, and the story of Captain Hook and Peter Pan, Captain Hook to me, in a way, it kind of reminded me of Joe Jackson, who was the control freak and was trying to take over. He was mean and everything like that, while Peter Pan was the hero and he saved the children and all his other stuff. And he had the Lost Boys and all his other stuff. But yeah, it was that part was interesting, but also we saw that Michael ended up being attached to animals, and he ended up getting a llama, he had a giraffe, and he had Bubbles, his chimp that became famous pretty much. And he had a snake and some other animals, and I thought he had a lion too, but I don't remember if they showed the lion in the movie, but it was a lot going on at I believe it was Hazelhurst where they lived, the Hazelhurst compound or house in Encino, California. So yeah, it was a lot going on up in there. But baby, let me get to speaking of that household. Whoo, it was a lot of tension in that house between Joe and Michael. So, from the looks of things, it looked like Michael and Latoya, and I believe Janet was still living there as well. But even though they didn't show Janet in the movie, from my understanding, she was still living there as well, I believe, around that time. Um, from let's see, I don't know, she probably had moved out a little bit later on, maybe a few years after the fact, once we start talking about Off the Wall and Thriller and stuff, because she ended up getting married to James DeBarge, but that was short lived. But I think they moved back to the Hazelhurst compound. Let me see, what is that the name of the place? I think it was Hazelhurst. Oops. Okay, y'all. I keep saying Hazelhurst. It's Havenhurst. That's funny. I'm sorry. I meant Havenhurst. I keep saying Hazelhurst. So that was the place they moved to after they moved from Gary, Indiana. Cause their house was called what the name or the street, and everything was called 2300 Jackson Street, where they came from in Gary, Indiana. So yeah, that I don't know why I keep saying Hazelhurst. Where is that coming from, y'all? Havenhurst. Oh my goodness, that was funny. But yeah. So overall, you notice that anybody who saw the movie would notice that um, what am I doing? What did I do, y'all? All right, so anyway, that was funny. Um, Michael is still living there, and he still have to be around Joe Jackson, right? So Michael is nervous as shit because he want to do his solo album Off the Wall, and he is terrified. And he had the other executives contact his dad, come to the house and have a chat with his dad, and ask them like, is it okay if Michael can do this new project of his, this new solo project of his called Off the Wall and stuff. And he was like, because at first Michael was saying, I'm going to stand up to him and I'm going to talk to him face to face and all this other stuff. And that didn't go down like that. He was terrified to tell Joe. So what happened was these executives basically um, they told Joe about it, and Joe was like, "Well, I don't give a damn what he do around midnight, but from 9 to 5, his ass belong to me." And he is Jackson 5 business pretty much, and I'm like, "Oh shit, this some slave driver type of shit. What in the hell?" I'm telling you, and that's something else that I picked up on throughout the movie. I felt like Joe Jackson felt like he owned his children. And I remember seeing an old clip, and I'm throwing in some oldies but goodies type of information too, where Joe Jackson said, well, beatings. He said, that's what they did during slavery. I didn't beat my kids or something. He said, I disciplined my children or something or whatever. No, you beat the shit out of them. That's what you did. And you beat them. You didn't use a whip, but you damn sure used a belt, and you used your hands for what it sounded like too. But that was crazy, y'all. That was crazy. And I'm not trying to bash anyone. I'm just speaking the truth. Like, the family went through so much. It's specifically the siblings and Michael Jackson himself, obviously, all went through some trauma. And you can see it throughout the movie because I remember at the beginning of the movie, and I forgot to mention, is that Joe Jackson called Michael Big Nose. Now, this is the thing. Michael Jackson, when he did Off the Wall, I didn't see where he needed to get surgery or whatever. I thought he looked fine the way he was. He started looking different, like he was looking more mature, like growing into his looks. And when he got that little, like a small nose job, like little pinch or whatever it was, because it's just like it was a pinch. I was like, okay, we need to just stop here. Like, nothing is wrong with you. Like, if you want to change a little something, okay, I get it. I can't, no one can stop you from changing yourself. But, it just, the surgery just got a little bit out of hand throughout the years. But Michael Jackson was a very nice looking guy at first. I didn't see what was wrong with him. Him and Janet were like twins. You know what I'm saying? Um, Not only did they look alike, they kind of act alike. Well, they did act so much alike too. Um, he was so nervous going into the studio with Quincy Jones, and he was speaking affirmations and saying that he was, saying you're beautiful, you're confident, you're talented, and all this other stuff. And you could tell that Michael was struggling with how the way he looked. And it came from the trauma that was ringing in his head about being told that you're ugly, basically, and people they couldn't accept the fact that he wasn't the same little 9, 10-year-old boy that was prancing across the stage and dancing and singing his life away. And some people talked about him because he had acne and stuff like that, but they didn't touch base on a whole lot of that in this movie. But we knew from past or primary knowledge about why Michael Jackson did what he did. But even he was talking to Latoya in the movie, the actress who portrayed Latoya, and she said, "Ooh, I'm thinking about getting my nose done too," because I'm telling you, they showed him go to the plastic surgeon, and she asked, "Was he on any medication?" And he basically said no, just for vitiligo. And the nurse was like, it's more common than what you think. And the plastic surgeon came in and he even asked him, "Are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to change your nose and stuff? I think you look fine. You're a nice looking kid." He was like, "I'm not a kid. And blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know, Michael came to the house. He had a baseball cap on. He had his aviator shades, and he had the bandage and stuff for his nose. He got his nose done. And apparently it was outpatient surgery because he came straight home, and Joe looked at him like, "Michael, boy, what you do? What you do to yourself, basically?" And he said, well, Michael looked at him slowly and was like, "It was for my sinuses." And I was like, "Oh boy." And you could tell that he was fearful of his father still. Joe had a hold on him that was something crazy, something wicked. Like it was like Joe had a spell on his family or something. You know what I'm saying? With his controlling nature, and he ran everything. But it's funny because you also hear in the movie how Miss Catherine basically told Joe, "Hey, if it wasn't for Michael, we wouldn't have half the stuff we got." And he corrected her, "If it wasn't for me, we'd still be in Gary, Indiana, and those boys ain't no telling where they would have been, and we would have been still poor, they could have still been poor, and this, that, and the other, if I didn't push them out there to become who they are today." Now, this is crazy because in a way it's like yes and no with Joe, because yes, you put in the work to get them where they was because you were their manager and you pushed them to work hard, but you destroy these young men and young women, because I'm thinking of Latoya and Janet, like in a sense with their when it came to their self-esteem and shit, because of your abusive nature, especially the boys. He really did the boys wrong, um more than anything, as far as like destroying their self-esteem in a sense. And you will notice that a lot of the Jacksons have a very soft spoken type of tone, like this, really light, really quiet, like that. But their mother is very soft spoken. But I think it also came from when you're abusing a child, and especially boys, you're emasculating them a lot and you're softening them. And I think that made them come across as being more feminine. I'm not saying gay, I'm saying they may have been more feminine, because he broke them down like a fraction. He destroyed their self esteem in a way. Um, Michael was performing for the Off the Wall album, and we saw him perform "Don't Stop Till You Get Enough." That was great, and I loved how they put a visual together with when he came out, and it was all three Michaels, dancing at once and stuff, and he just went to the top. You know what I'm saying? And then we have "Rock with You" and ooh, excuse me, and that album was like it went through the atmosphere. But what really blew him up for real was Thriller. Even though Off the Wall sold greatly, Thriller, that's what sealed the deal. When I saw them recreate the Thriller video, and when they showed parts of Beat It, like they didn't show the actual full on video of Beat It, but they showed like kind of like behind the scenes, like what made him do Beat It. And he was watching about gang violence and stuff on the news, and next thing you know, Michael pull up to this garage looking place, and it looked like it was, it was obviously it was gang members there, you know what I'm saying? And Michael was like, he was down basically. He wasn't scared of nobody. And they was like, yo, that's Michael Jackson. They look like, man, ain't no damn Michael Jackson. And it was like, no, for real, look, that is Michael Jackson. And they looked and they was like, oh shit, that is Michael Jackson. And he was showing them the dance moves. He told why he was there and saying music unified everybody. And I thought that was dope. That was lit. And he did the like they was doing the dance moves for Beat It and all that, and it was pretty lit. It was good. But then when they did Thriller, I said, damn, if they don't look like the original people from that damn I'ma say short film. Like Beat It was a short film. Michael Jackson didn't make videos after so long. He made short films, okay? Especially when we got to the Thriller era. Okay. And it was crazy. So I was like, oh man, this is what's up. But I love when they did Thriller again too. And they recreated or reimagined Thriller. And I noticed that for Ola Ray's character, they had Asia Fuqua, I believe, who was playing Ola Ray. She's the daughter of Antoine Fuqua and Layla Rashawn. So she looked like her mother too. Is it Layla or Leela Rashawn? But anyway, I was like, damn, how do you pronounce it? I think it's pronounced Layla Rashawn. And she been around a long time. I love her as an actress too. She's pretty good. And y'all remember her from Way Next Hill. She played Sunshine on Harlem Nights and stuff. So yeah. But overall, that was good. I loved when they showed him perform with his brothers when they did the victory tour and stuff. Um, and he was performing some of his songs. And then he did like Human Nature. Oh my God, I love that. He was killing it. He ate that with the dance moves. Oh my God, Jaafar killed it, yo, like for real. And it was, oh my God, what was the other song he was singing that I love? It was Human Nature. Was it Working Day and Night? Or something like that. One of my favorite, it was one of them songs that I really love. From his Off the Wall album that he was performing too. Oh, and when he did Billie Jean live on the Motown, was it Motown 25 special that they had back in the day? Oh my God. Nailed it. Nailed it. What else? When I kept looking at Jafar, I said it's like he channeled all the emotions that his uncle was feeling, his insecurities, his talent, everything was just like right in his heart center. Like he felt everything. Um Also, I would like to mention that, oh my God, that damn Joe Jackson basically told him, because he called for a meeting and he said, yeah. He was like, because I think, who was that asked Michael to come down? It's either Randy or Marlon. One of them probably was Randy came and got him, was like, hey, basically our old man want to meet with us and shit. And Michael was looking like, oh Lord have mercy. Why? Why do I have to meet with this guy? And he basically told him, oh, you're doing the tour with your brothers. And he looking like, excuse me? And he was basically riding off the coattails of Michael's success with Thriller. And you know what? It was another album too. I think this might been the, cause he also did Triumph. Was the album Triumph? Then they had Victory. Cause Triumph, I think, came, was it after Off the Wall or something, or around the same time as Off the Wall? He did that, and then they did the Victory tour, and that's when Joe was sitting down with Don King. He had invited Don King to his house to ask him could he host like the Victory tour, like be pretty much like the spokesperson, because for marketing purposes, so that they could sell a lot of tickets. And from my understanding, it was a lot of drama going on behind that too. If y'all see the old footage and stuff, y'all see what I'm talking about with the tickets. And some people had to mail in certain information or whatever to get tickets instead of going to a ticket master. And it was a whole bunch of shit went down, but they ain't talk about all that in the movie. But oh, when Michael fired Joe Jackson, and it was so funny because he went in this room full of lawyers and he chose, I forgot his last name, but this guy was like the not manager but the lawyer for the Beach Boys and stuff like that, and high profile people. And Michael was like, that's my guy. He basically cleared the room looking like, you others can go. Ta ta, like that. Kind of like on that type of time. I'm like, wow. Um, talk about being a man, okay. He was like, basically, fuck all y'all. Have a great day, in a way. But yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. Um, what else was I trying to say? Oh, let's go back. About the Pepsi commercial. Now, Michael already didn't want to do that damn Victory tour, and that's when the Pepsi commercial incident happened, where the pyrotechnics had end up burning his scalp, like in the center. He had a golf ball size burn, and they said that he almost died because if it would have caught, if the fire would have lit around like on his clothes, it could have caught to his face and everything, and it could have like killed him, And he basically kept saying to his father, like, he almost died, but his father was in the damn ER waiting room talking about when is he going to be able to perform it. We got to make this money. And I said, this motherfucker, excuse me, this man is insane. Joe, all he cared about was money, it seemed like. And I said, I hope he wasn't this heartless. But apparently he was, because they want to put the shit in the movie. And the family agreed to this content. So I was just like, Lord have mercy. What is going on with this man is nuts. But y'all, oh my God. Yeah, it was a mess. It was a mess. So Also, yeah, and what I loved about Michael again, and this is something he did throughout the movie, is he would donate to children like toys and stuff like that, and he would visit them and pretty much share his light with the world. And I noticed that even before he got burned, had to suffer the third degree burns and everything like that, he was doing that anyway. But to speed up going back to that part of his life when he got burned, he told Bill, his bodyguard, he said, I feel like my mission here is to heal and share my light to the world and be there to support people and, basically show them a better way. Like that the world is, there are basically, in a sense, good people around, and I'm one of them, and I'm willing to share and heal with them, in a sense. And I thought that was a beautiful message. Now, also, he donated the money that he received from the lawsuit against Pepsi, to like the burn unit and stuff. He was also visiting children in the burn unit and looking out and looking after them. And I think he gave them toys and stuff too, and everything like that. And also, speaking about him and Bill, I thought they had a great connection because I remember Joe had pissed off Michael so bad about telling him what to do, or something about some business deal or something, and what he should be doing for the family, and all trying to gaslight him like, boy, you forgot where you came from, what you think you better, and all this other stuff. And I think that was after that meeting that he called. He told Bill, just take me somewhere. Just drive wherever. I don't care where it is. You could just drive, and we, long as we just on the road, basically, because basically his father had pissed him off. Um, whew, what else, y'all? It was a lot. It was a lot to cover. Oh, when the lawyer sent that fax to Joe and basically said, on behalf of Michael Jackson, you're terminated as his manager. That shit was hilarious. I don't know how y'all feel felt sorry about that, but that shit was hilarious. But the crazy part is that all this was going down and Michael was still living in the Havenhurst house. And I was like, dude, like, you got a lot of balls, because that father, whew, because Joe was still threatening to beat on Mike, and this man was grown. And Miss Catherine looking like, really? You gonna try to beat on him? This is a grown man. He have his own life and his own path. Okay? And that's the thing about Michael, and his mother and Catherine were so close. And they used to watch a lot of movies together, a lot of older movies. Um, they used to eat a lot of treats like ice cream and stuff. And I said, oh, Michael got his sweet tooth from his mom, because I saw some other footage of Miss Catherine, I think on a Latoya show, that it was called Life with Latoya, that came on her own channel back in the day. And I've been watching some reruns of that. They've been posting them like daily or something, or every week they post so many episodes. I forgot how many episodes there were. Ooh, I am itching, y'all. And yeah, it I was like, wow. But they had some deep talks. And when Michael was younger, he told her, I'd rather be around animals because they treat me better than people. In a sense, all people want to be around me for is because I'm famous, and they figure they could either get something from me, like far as an autograph, or just being associated with me because I'm Michael Jackson and all this other stuff. And they really didn't want to be around me just for the sake of being around me. It was just they just wanted to come up off my name or be affiliated with me just because I'm the Michael Jackson, right? And she looked like, wow, and he was talking about getting a pet llama, and he was talking about it's funny because he brought Bubbles to the house, and y'all, it was funny because everybody was looking, he was looking like, I got a surprise and this and that, and everybody looking like, okay, what is this? And Bubbles had came out of the truck. He was kind of nervous at first, and then he ran over to Mike and he hugged him, and he had a little diaper on and stuff. It was cute, but it was funny too because they looking like I think that was Randy was like, welcome to the family, or one of them, I forgot, I think that was him, but I was like, wow, it was funny. Um, yeah, that was hilarious. So, he spent a lot of time. Excuse me. He spent a lot of time with Bubbles, and they were playing Twister together, and he talked to him about Neverland, and it's crazy because before he got his first nose job, Bubbles was kind of covering his nose, and Michael was looking at his nose like, "Ooh, I gotta get a nose job," like that was bothering him. He thought about that again, but y'all, so we see all this stuff with Thriller taking off and everything like that, and how he would come up with the concepts of his songs, and he would go to like the studio that was actually on the property of Havenhurst, and he would come up with these concepts of what he wanted for the album, and it looked like Thriller ended up being one of the last songs that he considered to be on there. I noticed they didn't talk about The Girl Was Mine. Like they didn't talk about that. They kind of skated over that. What they did, but um, oh, I was also thinking about like Michael when he fired his dad Joe. He was going to the refrigerator, right? And I think this was right after him and Bubbles was playing Twister. And after him and Bubbles were playing Twister, right? He went to the refrigerator, and Joe was standing right behind him, like, How could you fire your father? And this, that, and the other, and all the stuff I did for you, and um, you're gonna have all well, family is all you got, and you're gonna realize that you're gonna be around a bunch of yes men who agree to everything, and basically you gonna fall from grace in so many words because he said you not like everybody else, and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Then we see speeding up to the victory tour because I'm just like shaking my head. Uh, Michael agreed to do the victory tour, and that's after he had this epiphany about what is his purpose being here. He said, I love my family. I love my fans. I want to do right by the world. I want to heal the world. I want to shed my light with the world, or share my light with the world. And I want to heal, and I want to basically be there for people the best way possible. Keep showing up and being my pure, beautiful self, right? And he agreed to do the victory tour. But while he was in a hospital, this is the part I forgot to bring up. Miss Catherine said, I should have protected you more, Michael. Yeah, you should have protected all of them more. She didn't really have a voice like that from what I saw in the movie. That's what they portrayed. This Catherine Jackson is not like the same Catherine Jackson. Well, not the same as the Catherine Jackson and the Jacksons in American Dream. Angela Bassett is a powerhouse of an actress. Nia Long is a great actress as well. She did the best with what she had for as far as the script. But overall, Angela Bassett is a powerhouse, okay? No comparison at all. So Angela Bassett brought an energy to Katherine Jackson that we didn't see in this film. But yeah, Michael was on stage, like I said, dancing and singing his ass off. Jafar killed it right. He was killing the dance moves, the mannerisms, all that shit. It was just like I was looking at Michael all over again, yo. Um, Next thing you know, he said this is the farewell tour. Ooh, and you talk about Joe Jackson was hot. I thought his eyes changed colors again. Cause I looked, I said, ooh wee, like he wanted to go on that stage and probably choke the life out of Michael. Like, the fuck is wrong with you? That's the look. Cause he came after Michael when he ran to the backstage, and he was looking like, what's wrong with you, boy? Like, why would you say something like that? And this and this and this and that. Talk about the farewell tour and it ain't over and all this. And Michael basically told him, look, I told you I'm done. I'm taking my own path, this, that, and the other, and I'm done with you. And Bill Bray, the bodyguard, said, Joe, it's over. Next thing you know, we at the end of the movie, and we going into the bad era, and he's performing on stage at the Wembley in London. And I said, ooh wee. I said, I can't wait to part two to come because it was great. Like, that ending performance was great. And I said, damn, I need more. You know, like, I need more for real. Um, Overall, a phenomenal movie. The acting was great. The dancing and singing was great. Um, it was something else I wanted to talk about. Oh, about getting Michael Jackson's music played on MTV. Back then, people knew that MTV was racist, obviously, because they didn't like playing a lot of black artists. The only two artists that I remember them playing in heavy rotation around that time, from what I saw from the old clips, was Michael Jackson and Prince. But they had to fight to get them on there. Like, Michael Jackson's Billie Jean, for that to get played in his other music videos or short films, as I like to call it, as he liked to call them, um, I forgot his name, but this guy, this high ranking executive, basically told this other guy from MTV who was very high ranking as well, I forgot his name, like, basically, you better play the fucking video or I'm gonna stick my foot so far up your ass or something. Or no, he told him you could take something, put some Crisco on it and stick it up your ass and some other shit. And I'm like, whoa. And next thing you know, Billie Jean was playing, and Michael got even more exposure, and Michael became the king of pop. Like Michael was saying, he didn't make his music just for black people or just trying to please white people too. He wanted everyone to enjoy his music, both black and white and other races in between. Shit, not just one group of people or the other. So overall, y'all, it was a great experience. It was a great movie overall. I enjoyed it. But I also want to talk about some of the spiritual stuff, right? That I picked up on while watching the movie. Overall, I do feel like Michael's energy or presence was attached to his nephew Jaafar. And it was so evident because sometimes it felt like he was looking directly at Michael, like looking at his soul or whatever. And his spirit was very strongly felt. Yes, that is his uncle. Yes, um, Jermaine and Michael were close, but also I found out they said that Jermaine Jackson was very jealous of Michael. And that's funny that his son, one of his sons, Jaafar, ended up portraying his uncle, and he looks so much like Michael. And if you look at Tito's sons, 3T, they favor Michael a lot too. And they got some strong genes. The Jackson family got some strong genes, especially when it comes to like their eyes and stuff. You know a Jackson when you see them because their eyes and cheekbones and stuff, they have a very distinctive look. You know a Jackson family member when you see one, basically. Also, let's see. I was also noticing like ooh wee, like I said about the dynamic between Joe Jackson and Michael Jackson was, I don't know if it was something from a past lifetime with Joe and Michael Jackson, but they had a very, very strained relationship with each other. And not only because he was abusing Michael and his other siblings, but it was something deeper. Like he was enslaved to his father's control or something. Like when you think of Michael, you think of some people who are religious or spiritual, you know about the archangel Michael. And it's crazy because people view Michael as being like an angelic, pure type of person. And he had a beautiful light around him to a lot of people. He was like a different type of force, a different type of energy. And maybe that's why people would pass out at his concerts and stuff because his aura and everything was so strong that people just gravitated to him. And it was almost like people was feeding off his energy because he did have such a purity to him and a light that attached a lot of people to him. Overall, I do believe that Joe Jackson was like demonic in a sense. He had an energy to him that was just off. Like he got a thrill out of abusing his family. Like he talked about, well, I was brought up a certain way and all this other stuff, you know. But still, that don't mean you have to beat the shit out of and traumatize your children. Like some people say that's the old school way of how people would handle things back in the day, and that toughen up their children and all. Man, miss me with that shit. It was almost like Michael was in a karmic debt with his own father in his lifetime, like something that spilled over from the past that came in the present. And Michael really was a slave to the rhythm, literally. He literally, when he made This Is it that was it for real. Like that was supposed to be his last tour or whatever, supposedly. But it ended up being his last tour in a way because it because it ended up being catastrophic, and it was sad because he passed away. He didn't even get a chance to finish it. And also Michael was, I remember reading something about he was dancing so much that he couldn't stop dancing, and he started dancing in the street or something, and he was a workaholic. And I think that was instilled in him from the father, basically working him all the time, like he just couldn't sit still. And then I read something about he would go to sleep for days at a time when he would go to sleep, but he had an issue with going to sleep, and I believe not only due to the scalp burns from that Pepsi commercial and the pyrotechnics or whatever going off, but also because of the trauma that he went through as a child. And do I believe that some other stuff went on behind the scenes during his childhood while he was in the industry to get the deals and stuff that they got? It's a strong possibility. You know, they're not about to tell you all that in the movie. They can't, obviously, if they, totally want to ignore it and not bring up a whole bunch of conspiracy theories. And they're not about to do that anyway because they're trying to protect their image and Michael's image. But sadly enough, a lot came about also when he was accused of those allegations with underage people. I'm going to say that they used that against him in a sense because they knew that he loved children, and they used that against him as a form of punishment because Michael wasn't weak willed like people thought he was. He actually was very vocal about a lot of things, and people thought that he was weak, but he really wasn't. He didn't bite his tongue about a lot of stuff. And people really, I think, underestimated Michael's ability to reach certain masses when it came to how he felt when it came to the music industry and how black artists were being treated and all that. Like, some people, I guess, didn't think that he was strong enough to speak up about certain things, but he was, and he wasn't doing that for clout or whatever. He was doing that because that's how he genuinely felt. Um, do I believe that there was more that could have been told and people were looking for more information that was like the things that were undercover or wrapped or under wraps that people didn't want to expose? Yeah, a lot of people wanted more tea about stuff we didn't know already. Yeah, I believe that's one thing that people wanted to know things about Michael Jackson that they didn't know already. Maybe we'll get it in part two. I think they should have did a series on it, on this movie, or on Michael Jackson too. That'd be great. Like how they did Aretha Franklin with the Respect movie, and then they had a series about her as well. That would have worked out fine because I think we need another Michael Jackson series and based just mostly on Michael Jackson and not really the family overall. We got that in An American Dream back in 1992 or whatever, but overall, I think it was still an excellent movie, and I do want to go see it again because um, I think that I just want to see it again to grasp some other things that I felt like I saw and felt, but I want to just confirm like, oh yeah, that's what I was thinking or feeling or whatever. All right, y'all have a beautiful rest of y'all night. This is High Priestess Tana. Thank you for tuning into Tana Temple Healing Words. Y'all have a beautiful rest of y'all weekend, and I'll talk to y'all later. If y'all want to leave some comments, feel free to do so. And yeah, stay strong, stay positive, stay blessed, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.